Alright, welcome to this video. What we're trying to do today is just to show you an overview of how to remotely connect, how to remotely read and write from anywhere in the world where you are. You can actually write to your plant floor, to your PLC, to your DCS, to any of your control systems from any location in the world. Let's say your plant is located in Nigeria, and then you're in the United States, and then you want to read what the plant is doing, what the plant parameters are at that moment, or you want to write to it from whatever location you are in the US. You can also do that. So alright, so today we're going to demonstrate just what a very small portion of what you can actually do with this. Alright, so the PLC I'm working with, the PLC I've actually done this simulation with does not have OPC US server installed inside of it, although it's S7-1200, but it does not have OPC US server inside of it. So what we have done, or what I've done, is to actually create an OPC US server for it in my laptop. So if you see here, I've actually created a flexible server using the flexible node, created an OPC US server inside of it. There are so many things in these videos which you will be seeing later on in the course of this in the course of my subsequent videos, which will be coming out in days and weeks time. All right, so I've created an OPC US server inside of it. But what I'm doing actually is that because it does not have an OPC US server, like I said, I created one inside of my laptop. So I am reading the values from the PLC via Modbus. So I created a Modbus server inside of it. I'm going to show you all those. So I created a Modbus server. I made my PLC a Modbus server, and currently you see I'm reading using this Modbus read node. So I'm actually reading the values from the Modbus from my PLC, and then I am writing it with this my OPC UA client. I'm writing it to different addresses. As you can see here, I'm writing it into test read write 1, test read write 2, test read write 3. Actually, what I'm doing here is that I'm reading 3 Modbus addresses at the same time. Starting from address 0, I'm reading, of course, you're going to see that this is 40,001, 40,002, 40,003. So I'm reading these addresses starting from 0 to 3 addresses. So on those 3 addresses, I'm actually sending into the address pages of test read write. This is an identifier: test read write 1, test read write 2, and test read write 3. Alright, so in my server, this test read write 1, test read write 2, test read write 3, they all exist in my server currently. So these values exist in my server. So what do I want to do with it? Now when I come here, what I'm doing here is I'm trying to read, if you see here, I'm trying to read the value of test read write 2, right? So which I know belongs to my plant existing in a particular Modbus address. So if I read this test read write 2, now whatever value it gives to me, you see this is my OPC UA client, and then it reads, right? It's trying to read this local localhost address. Remember, this exists in my laptop currently. So so what I'm going to do here is immediately it reads this. This is an inject node. Immediately it does this value, it reads this value. Let's say we're going to be using this for this demonstration. This is your test read write 2, right? Currently having a value of 55. This is 40,002. For those of you who may have basic knowledge about a Modbus, you're going to understand that this is your holding register, your function code. This is your holding register, and then it starts from 40,001 actually. So but this could correspond to your address 0, right? Remember, we started reading from address 0, and then reading 3 addresses 0, 1, 2, right? So but you're not going to start with 40,000, you're starting with 40,001, 40,002, 40,003. So this is your address 0, address 1, address 2. All right, so these are the values, and then these are the addresses, right? Values are here, addresses are here. So currently I have 55 in this address. So if I change this value to, okay, let me read this value first of all. So if I say can you read this value for me? If it does read it, it tells me it is 55, right? And if you see, it is actually being shown to me here by this debug node, node of number 26, right? So I'm actually seeing the value of 55 from here. So it says, it means that if I actually go ahead and change this value to say 36, for example, and then if I try to read this quickly, you still see I'm going to read the same value of 55. I read this again, and then I'm reading the value of 36. I read this again, I'm reading the value of 36. So it's actually showing me what has actually happened. Remember, I read this value with this, and then I've written it with my OPC UA client into the OPC UA server with of test read writes. I think we said test read writes 2, is it? Yes, test read write 2. Okay, so I'm reading what is available at test read write 2. So I know that is what it is currently now, 36. It was 55, and then we changed to 36. This could represent your temperature value, your pressure value, your level, any of the process variables coming from your plant floor. All right, so but when this value comes out from this my OPC UA client, now I am actually storing this value in a global variable called ID_4. So at ID_4, I'm storing this variable, and you see this message.payload is actually the result which shows this 36 or 55 or whatever value is coming out from there. So just like saying, take the value of 36 and store it inside of ID_4. So this is just the syntax to go about that. All right, so this has been stored in ID_4. So now, how do I connect remotely? Currently, I'm using Google SQL database. So this is a remote database hosted on the cloud by Google. So I've already created 1% engineering. This is my instance, and then I've created a database. I created a database here called Node-RED. You're going to find that now. I created a database here called Node-RED. So in my database called Node-RED, I also created a table, but I'm not going to show you the table. I'm done with creating anything here remotely. So every other thing I want to do, I want to implement using Node-RED, right? So what I'm going to do here is, you see, I actually dropped a comment here. This is to create table. This is to create a one-time table, actually, or a table one time, right? Not doing it more than once, and that was why I actually eliminated, after creating this table, I actually eliminated the inject node coming from this. All right, so if I open up this, you will see that I've actually created a topic. Remember, we said the payload, the message of payload is actually for the result, right? Just like saying return this, return that, right? So most times, so if we say return a result, we're actually returning the payload, right? We'll see more details about that in the subsequent videos. So all right, for this message.topic, you have actually seen message.payload. You're going to see this is message.topic. I want you to visualize this message.payload and message.topic as output and input. Input being message.topic, output being message.payload. So if I want something to be executed, right, I'm going to send an input to it, and that input I send to it in most cases is going to be your message.topic. And then if I want to see the result of what I've just done, and then I'm going to see it as message.payload. We're going to see more going forward. All right, so this is my SQL query. This is my SQL query. So I'm created a table in my Node-RED database, which I created here, right? Which I've already created here. So I'm creating a table. I'm creating a table, test table, inside of my Node-RED database. Sorry about that. My phone was actually ringing. All right, so inside, I've created a table called test inside of my Node-RED database. So and then after creating this table, I've actually added two columns. The ID column, one column called ID, and then the other column called value. So I just need an ID column and a value column. Now ID I've actually added for references, and then the value is going to be the values coming from the plant floor, from the PLC. For example, 55, 36, any number coming from the PLC, from the plant floor actually. Okay, so I've actually created that, and then this is the SQL query for it. So I am done with this. I created this one time, and I'm going to be creating it again. All right, so but this one, what I have done here is to actually initialize this table. So what I've just done here is actually in my two columns, I actually want a single row and nothing but a single row, right? Not more than a single row. So again, I'm having a message.topic. So this message.topic actually, again, I'm referencing my Node-RED database and then my test table. So, and then these are my two columns. What do I want to insert there? I want it to have an initial value of 1 for the ID, and then an initial value of 0 for the value. All right, so currently, just by injecting this, I'm going to have a value of 1 and a value of 0 to my ID and my value respectively. All right, so now after having done that, remember all these queries from here, they are all going to go to this MySQL node, right? So they are going to go to this MySQL node, and what I've actually done here is that this is my public IP address for my MySQL server, MySQL database on the Google Cloud, and then this is my port, this is my user, the permissive user, this is my name actually, so this is my password, and this is the name of my database. Okay, now it is time for me to actually update the values. Remember, currently we have ID as 1 here, and then value at 0. So how do I update the values coming from the plant floor? Okay, so remember at this point you have actually read this value. Actually, I'm making a connection with my phone, and that is why you see this currently showing connecting. So I believe after some time it's going to get connected because of the call that actually came in. So it's actually disrupted the connection. All right, so remember at this point you actually read this and you stored the value in a global variable called ID_4. Let me show you that again. ID_4. So I know that whenever I click this value and I see that, okay, I'm having 36 here, if I go to this context data to read this value of ID_4, I should see the value of 36, right? Yes. Now I have the value of 36. It means that actually ID_4 has the value which is coming from my plant floor, right? Okay. Now, next thing is I open up this. How do I actually update my my ID and my value in my PLC? I will actually tell you why I've done this in the line 1, but let's concentrate here. So remember, I actually set the ID4 to have the value of coming from the plant floor. Now I actually want to read that same value, so that same variable. What I've just done here is variable ID_4 in words, actually just so you know that it's actually tallies with this. You can give it any name of your choice actually. So ID_4 in words is equal to global.get. Now I'm reading the value of ID_4 in figure. Remember, that is this one. So I'm actually reading this value and I'm storing it inside another variable, this time a local variable called ID_4 in words. Okay, now I've created a topic here, and I'm using the SQL query for update. So I'm saying update my database, my test table, then set the value of set the number or the figure of value or the value of value, that is the value of this value, which is my column name, to be equal to whatever you get from this variable name, right? Of course, I know that this variable name should have the same value stored inside here and coming from my plant floor. Okay, so this is how to actually write this. We're going to talk about much of this. Remember, this is just an overview of telling you how this is being done, how this is being implemented, so you just have a general idea of what is expected, and then so when we begin to do these things, basically you wouldn't find much issues. Okay, so where the ID is equal to 1, remember this ID is never going to change from 1. I already initialized it to a value of 1, so it's never going to change from 1, and I don't want it to actually do that. So that was why I didn't do auto increment. I didn't do anything funny with it. So I just initialize the value of 1, and then it's going to stay with the value of 1. All right, so ID, where ID is equal to 1, is going to change the value of whatever that is inside of this column or this row to whatever this variable has. So whenever we do that, now it would have happened, but you wouldn't know. You may never know that it has happened, right? Because again, you may not ever have an opportunity of working with this directly, right? So what I want us to do is, I don't want to leave the Node-RED environment, right? So how do I know that it has actually happened? So if I go back here and I look at my debug messages, let me clear this up. So it has actually connected. So if I go back to my debug messages, I have written this select query here. So I'm selecting all. This term means all from the Node-RED database and the test table. So everything I have in the Node-RED database of the test table, let me have it available to me. Now again, I'm still going to tell you why I've written this here. So immediately I do that, I'm going to have all these things displayed for me, right? So this is what is going to happen now. Remember, I have the value of 36. Is it 36? Okay, yes, 36. But we can also change it to, let's say, 98. We can say, okay, 98 degrees Celsius or Fahrenheit or PSI is coming from our plant. And then if I read this value, it tells me 98. Now currently I know it is 98, and this value would have been stored inside of ID_4. So if I go here, ID_4 context data, and I refresh this, I'm going to find that ID_4 is now having a value of 98. So I know I've already created this table. I'm not going to create it again. I know I've already initialized these values. I'm not going to initialize them again. You can as well do that if you want, if this is the first time. But even if I do that, there will be no issues with that. So if I hit initialize, it's going to have it's telling me duplicate entry now for what I already have there. So there will be no need for me to be doing that again. So but if you have not done that before, you could go ahead and do that. All right, so I want to update the value of 98. Remember, well, ID_4, this value ID_4 is going to read the 98 value that is stored into ID_4 of this figure, and then it's going to update whatever I have in my value register. All right, so if I hit update, right, it updates. It tells me that it has actually done the update, right? This is okay. It has actually done the update. But how am I sure it has actually done that? Of course, getting this response means it has actually done that. But most times you want to read these values and then see what your results actually are, right? Let's visualize what we have actually done. So whether we have actually done the right thing. So if I hit this one to select the text table in the database, in the Node-RED database, if I hit this, it brings up this value for me. It tells me node 25. This is what it has actually done, right? Node 25. I open up this, it tells me it has an array, an object inside of it, and then it has 1 and 98. Now this is just how you write from your PLC floor. I have actually created a client, an OPC UA client here. First of all, I created an OPC UA server here, which I showed you here. So, and then with this one, I've actually created an OPC UA client. So an OPC UA client which has actually, first of all, here, which wrote to, I think here, was it? Yes, here, which actually wrote to this server. And then because I know that the value exists in this server, so I read the value off from this with my OPC UA client of read. So after reading this particular address of test read write 2, now I know I have a value of 98, so I store that value there, and then I'm able to implement all this stuff. So anyone who has access to this Google database can actually see the value of what the plant is saying, of what the temperature value is, or what the pressure value is. It must not be one value, it can be several values, thousands and millions of values. So you can actually see the values written inside of your cloud database. So anybody can actually see these values in real time, right? In real time. Actually save some of the seconds he uses for processing, but in approximately real time, these are real time values. So you could see these values actually as they change. Now, what if I want to see these values? Let's say somebody somewhere, somebody in the United States, somebody in some other part of Africa changes this value that has that is authorized to actually change the value here, changes this value, and then I want to read that value. I want that value that has been changed here to be written to my plant flow. How would that be done? The second video is going to do that for you. But this is exactly how to read to your how to write to your cloud database and then monitor these values in real time. But I told you something. I was going to show you something here why I actually did this thing in line 1. Now, if you see what is happening here, maybe I'm just going to do it in this video also. If you see what is happening here, currently I'm actually writing to my plant flow. I'm reading from your 98 and then I'm writing it into another address in the Modbus register. I'm going to show you that. So actually for this one, this is a table for the dashboard. If I open it up, you see that it has the HTML code inside of it. So actually I only have ID and value. Yes, just 2 columns, ID and value. So if I show you my database, I have a lot in my database already. So you could see that I have the value of 98. If I change this value again to say 51, right? And then if I change that value to 51 and then I read this value from here, again we just repeat the same thing. I read this value from here, I'm having the value of 51, and then I update my PLC values. So, and then I could select it. So if I select it, you discover that I have the value of 51 here. So these values could actually be updating for you, and then you see what is actually happening in real time in your plant. Actually, you do not have to be manually clicking these values. I just did this for demonstration purposes. You absolutely do not have to be clicking these values. We can actually automate this. In fact, in the subsequent videos we're going to see how to actually automate these processes, so you don't have to be clicking each of these things one by one. This is almost like, in fact, it is manual. It is manually it's a manual process trying to click each of these, activating the eject node. So this is that. But let me show you. You remember we said that when you hit this select, it brings out this result for you. This is what the result comes. This is the result you get from the cloud database node 20, debug node 25. So if you open it up, you see that you have ID of 1 and value of 51. Now, what is happening here is I do not want the value of ID. Excuse me. I do not want. I'm only interested in, if you see this function here, and I'm writing to another Modbus address. If you use this, probably, I think I should do this in the next video, because this video is already getting very long, and I wouldn't want you to get confused about what I'm talking about. So in the next video, I'm going to talk about how to write from the cloud to your plant flow. So, but for this one, we have actually seen how to actually update your cloud database with regards to what is happening in your plant flow. So your plant is actually writing to your cloud database, but can I actually write from my cloud database back to my plant flow? We're going to see that in the next video. Take care and have a wonderful day.